Speaking of method, the one that we have seen earlier, the normal division one, I think is basically whatever that I have always been using, and I really believe that is the simplest one. But over here, we do have another method. It's actually called the subtraction method. All right. I will just explain on how this method works and all that. Then I will leave it to you on which one you think is easier to do. All right, but I just feel like there's a need for you to know how this works. Personally, I would still prefer the old school way that we discussed earlier, but it's really totally up to you on which one you think is important. All right, so in this case, in this example, it actually wants to convert 166 decimal of base 10 into binary form. Okay, what happens here is that they say that we start with a weighted position value greater than the number. All right, sorry, there's a typo here. So what it literally means is that since this is 166, all right, and we're talking about binary here, so we will look up for a number of 2 power of something, all right, and that 2 power of something will give you a number that is greater than our 166 over here. So in this case, it's 2 power of 8, because if you look at 2 power of 7, it will be 128, but 128 is actually smaller than 166, right? So the number here that's suitable for us to use would be 2 power of 8, which will come up to 256. All right, so it goes like this. We always go by comparison with the number. Okay, so this is what we call the weighted position, right? So if your number is greater than the weighted position over here, you write down as 1, and then you subtract the weighted position value, which means you subtract both together. But if the number is less, then you just write down 0 and subtract 0. Alright, so let's look at the example over here first. We have 166, we have 256. Alright, so we compare the two number, and we know that this number is actually smaller than our weighted one, right? So it actually falls on this part here. Our number is less than the weighted position. Alright, so when less, what happens? We just minus 0. Alright, so remainder is 166. So this thing here becomes 0. Alright, and then we move on. This is 128, right? So now 166 and 128, indeed 166 is bigger, isn't it? So write down a 1. That's how this one comes about. Alright, and then after that, what does it say? It asks to subtract the two values. Alright, that's why we get 166 minus 168. Then you get 38 over here. Alright, then you bring down this 38 over here, and then you do the comparison again. Okay, like in this case, again, this is bigger than this one, so it just minus 0. This 0 here is translated over here. Nothing happens. Alright, move it down again, repeat the process. Now this is bigger, and that's why we minus it with 32, and that is why we have a 1 over here. Alright, then the process goes and repeatedly. Alright, so this is what I get, 6 compared to here. Since it's smaller, minus 0, I get 6. I add up a 0 here. Alright, same goes here, still smaller, get 6, put another 0. Now this is 4, 6, that's why 6 is bigger, so we minus with 4, get 2, and I get a 1 here. And then finally 2 minus 2. Alright, when it's the same or bigger, then you minus them together. So what happens is that you stop when the remainder is 0, and this will be your final value to it. So I leave it up to you on how you want to change from decimal to binary. Alright, so that's just a way for you to know. Alright, okay, we have covered this before as well. For the integer part, no worry about it, right? Because we always start with 2 power of 0, remember? So what happens here is when you have a point, all right? Same goes, like I've mentioned earlier, instead of 2 power of 0, if you have a point form, alright, what happens after would be that you start it with 2 power of negative 1, and then you continue on with 2 power of negative 2, and so on up until wherever it ends. Alright, so I hope this is pretty simple. Alright, in fact, it has the conversion here. I would really recommend that you actually try it out on a piece of paper yourself as well, just to have it as a practice and so on. Alright, but I hope everyone is clear on how we get this one. Alright, it's just literally the same old way that what we have discussed here earlier on, and then if there's a point form, you just continue with 2 power of negative 1 and so on. Alright, so this is just some tips of how you can go about it. Okay, convert integral part. This is dividing new number, and then convert the fraction, or this is literally on something like this. I've showed this in the class, in our last class as well. Okay, remember for 46, what happens is that we do the normal dividing. Alright, remember, so you divide by 2 because you want to change it to base 2. Alright, so you divide and so on, and then after that you move it from bottom up, and that's how you get 1 0 1 1 1 0. Alright, so 46, this is what you get. Alright, but when it comes to the base over here, the fraction on the point form over here, things are a little bit different. How so? What you do is that you literally just take this 0.6875. Okay, you take it, and instead of divide, okay, for a point form or a fraction, you times it by 2. Alright, so whatever that you get when you times it by 2, let's say over here, this is what you get, 1.3750. Alright, and then after that, what you do next is that you take this part over here after the point form. Okay, so this becomes 0.3750. See this 3750 here, it's actually from here, and then you times 2 again, you get 75. Take it back, 0.75 times 2. When do you stop? You repeat the whole process up until when you get 1.0. Alright, that's when you know you stop. Just like how the integer one earlier, you stop when you divide and you get 1. This one, when you have a point form, you multiply and you stop when you get 1. But the difference here is that you see this highlighted point over here. Remember earlier when we divide and all that for the number of 46? Over here, what happens is that you take from bottom up, right? In contrary, alright, for point form, what happens is that you go from top to bottom. Alright, so this will be your MSD here, most significant bit here. So it becomes 0.1011. Alright, so what happens basically is that after you have got your 46, which is 10110 from the previous slide, you just combine it with this one here. Alright, so two things for you to remember. If it's 46, anything that happens before the point form, you do the division. Alright, and then you go from bottom up. That's how you get this number here. And then anything that's after the point form, you do the multiplication, just like what you see up here. Do multiplication, only that the difference is that when you want to express the answer, it goes from top to bottom. That's how you get 1011, and most importantly, the end result, you just combine them together and put a 2 here because it's base 2. Alright, hope that you guys can give it a try of how it is. Okay, same goes on this one. This is another, this is just a checking. Alright, important for you also, I think, just for you to check up whether it's done correctly or not. You can always do the conversion again and see whether you have got the same answer or not. Alright, so this is how it goes. I would not want to go so much on this part here, basically just the exponent value. Alright, you can give this a try over here.